Hey there, Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. The Eye on College Basketball podcast is presented by Jersey Mike's, a sub above. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davis. If you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. I do want to start in the ACC, which used to often give us the biggest matchup of the final weekend of the regular season. But then Roy Williams retired and Mike Krzyzewski retired, and it just hasn't really been the same since. Duke and UNC have played 5 times since Kay and Roy both exited the sport. Duke has won 3 times. North Carolina has won 2 times. But in 3 of the 5 meetings, North Carolina hasn't even been ranked. And this weekend, UNC, once again, not ranked, which means for the 3rd time in 6 meetings over the past 3 seasons, Duke, North Carolina won't even give us a ranked versus ranked matchup. So Duke UNC is down. In a related note, ACC also down and currently viewed as a 3-bid league. That's according to Jerry Palm. Norlander, let me hit you with 2 simple questions with perhaps complicated answers. 1, how did the ACC fall this far? 2, how quickly can it all get fixed?
The answer for the first one's fairly, there's no one answer, and we don't have all the answers. Part of it's, the coaching quality in the league has dropped precipitously. It is noticeable on a weekend like this, like we're wrapping the regular season, and you just look around and a bunch of stuff like, Jay Billis and Dan Shulman have called the ACC tournament on ESPN for as long as I can remember them doing it, frankly, since since ESPN stopped broadcasting the Big East tournament when Billis would always do that. Those guys are rightfully going to the SEC tournament instead. It just doesn't carry a lot of appeal. There's some, what will happen with UNC attached to this. Like the Duke UNC game is about, well, if Carolina can win the game at home, would it be in the field in that regard? Like, so there are some stakes to it. Like there is actually some intrigue factor. But spoiler alert, Duke UNC will not be in the Final Four and 1 of today's episode. I think a lot of it is the coaching. I think part of it is, bringing in the league is now 18 teams. You've got Cal and Stanford and SMU, which is like, it's trying to knock on the door of being a bubble team. So even in year 1, it's been okay. It still doesn't have a quad 1 win overall. But if you're looking for answers, I don't really much have them for you because, some schools in the league have been able to have a halfway decent NIL situation. It's not like every school's falling behind. It's not nearly at the level of the SEC. But yeah, it is all dovetailed into a pretty bad situation. Right now, the ACC, as you mentioned, Tuesday, I forget. It's the worst ranked power conference at KenPom. It's not the lowest ever. That was actually 2 years ago. Granted, the conference situation was different, but in 2023, the ACC was 7th. It was behind the Mountain West. It was behind the Pac-12. So it was not a pretty situation then. The highest seeded team 2 years ago was Virginia, but that ACC got 5 teams in. This ACC will not get 5 teams into the tournament, which is even more damning because there's 1 fewer power conference around and you have 18 teams. So even if you're in a down year with an 18-team conference, a down year should be 5 teams dancing. Right now, the ACC is at 3, and see if it can get to 4. That is our poll question: is will the ACC be able to get to 4 teams into the NCAA tournament? A lot of that hinges on UNC, but how soon can it get back? I give the league a chance eventually. Some of it's going to be dependent upon the coaching hirings in this cycle, and we'll get to that in a little bit, and in next year's cycle, because undoubtedly there will be changes at some schools next year, GP. But I think there's a chance that we can check in 7-8 years down the road from now, and we can be talking about the ACC in the year 2025 the way that in the past couple of years we've talked about the SEC and how bad it got circa 2013 when it was in a similar situation.
7 or 8 years. My God.
Talking about reflecting back. I'm not talking about it's going to take that long. We've talked about, like, look what the SEC is now. And we go back to, 2013, 2014, when John Calipari was harping on the league and Mike Slive and some other folks that were working in the league were upping the qualifications when it came to scheduling and this, that, and the other, and prioritizing men's basketball. Like, they had They had a real come to Jesus moment with SEC basketball more than a dozen years ago, and now they need to have that moment in the ACC.
As for the poll question, of course they can get 4. I think it's going to be difficult because right now, obviously, Duke in probably as a 1 seed on Selection Sunday. Clemson, Louisville, no problems there. After that, everybody else is either not an at-large candidate or on the wrong side of the bubble. As you know, the bubble shrinks the closer you get to Selection Sunday. And how do you get from the wrong side of the bubble to the right side of the bubble? It typically takes, signature wins, nice wins. There aren't many of those available to you in the ACC tournament. Like on a neutral court, only games against top 50 net teams qualify as quadrant 1, and there's only 5 top 50 teams in the ACC, 13 outside of the top 50. Beyond that, none of these teams that you need to get big wins, the so-called bubble teams in the ACC, have shown any ability to get big wins this season, or at least have shown very little ability to get big wins this season. North Carolina right now is 1-10 in quadrant 1. SMU is 0-4. Pitt 1-9. Wake 2-7. You start looking at them against the 3 likely, if not definite, NCAA tournament teams in the ACC. North Carolina is 0-3 against Duke, Louisville, Clemson. Wake 0-4 against Duke, Louisville, Clemson. SMU 0-3 against Duke, Louisville, Clemson. Like these teams that need wins, they don't have very many chances to get them. And when they've been given chances for the past 4 months, they haven't done it. So I don't know why I would expect much of that to change over the next week and a half, but we'll see.
We talked on Wednesday's show about my, just general outlook on, if you can't win more than say 4 conference games, I don't want you in my tournament kind of deal. And you said you didn't want to have that on a sliding scale. I get all that. And that was mostly for fun, but I also believe it, by the way. A couple of years ago, we talked about this next one, and I think you agreed with me on pure principle, Parrish. And I don't like to narrow things down just to the quadrant stuff because the committee doesn't, and you looking at resume metrics and all that stuff is more important. However, if you come from a power conference, and yes, I hear your jokes, the ACC is still a power conference. If you can't get to Selection Sunday with more than one from a power conference, you can't have more than one quad 1 win. I don't want you in the field. I don't care about anything else. We talked about this with Carolina in 2023. I'm pretty sure you were on my side. Then you got to be on my side now. If you can't get, I'm not saying you have to get 1. I'm saying you have to have at least 2. At least 2 for me to consider you if you're in a power conference. Agree or disagree?
I mean, I don't.
Agreed. Thank you.
I don't like the rules like that, but I get your point.
Come on, man. 1 quad 1 win on Selection Sunday. You don't deserve to be in the field as an at-large. Get out of here.
I mean, the ones that are especially troubling is when like North Carolina's 1-10 and Pitt's 1-9.
Get out of here.
Like, buddy, you've been in a batter's box a lot, and you ain't even getting good swings in. It's just those resumes are rough, and it's why I would lean more likely to get 3 than 4, because what you're asking, whether it's North Carolina, Wake, anybody else, if you're asking them to go from the wrong side of the bubble to the right side of the bubble between now and Selection Sunday, which according to Jerry Palm is what you're asking them to do, you are asking them to do things they have shown really no ability to do all season. Like, hey, you got like, we were in studio the other night and Wally Zerbiak said, I'm just looking forward to seeing Duke. We were previewing North Carolina Duke. And he said, well, I'm just looking forward to seeing Duke play a good team. Well, me too. In the Sweet 16, probably. Like it's probably we might have to get there. I mean, this is the other problem with the ACC. It's not just that Duke is sitting here at 18-1 in the league. Do you know what the biggest indictment of the ACC is? That Clemson and Louisville are both 17-2. Like Clemson, nice team. Louisville, incredible stuff from Pat Kelsey. Those teams should not be 17-2 in the ACC through 19 games if the ACC is anywhere close to what it should be. Would you agree with that?
I'm not gonna listen. You're not gonna. Don't make me go Matt Kelsey on you right now. Okay. Don't make me go Matt Kelsey on you. Because I'll tell you what, are you aware of what's going to go down if Duke loses at Carolina on Saturday?
If Duke loses at Carolina on Saturday, am I aware of what's going to go down?
Yeah. If Duke loses and my Louisville Cardinals can get the win against Stanford at home,
yes.
and if Clemson, Brad Brownell, if he can beat Virginia Tech at home, which seems likely, it seems like Clemson and Louisville are going to win. They're going to finish 18-2 in the ACC. Duke, which is comfortably the number one team, Ken Palm in every metric, in the matter of hours, it's got to lose. It hasn't lost. It's just mutilating teams. But it is the Carolina rivalry game, and it is in Chapel Hill, so we'll see. Duke will be the 3 seed in the ACC tournament if this happens. Are you aware of that? They can go from the number one, and if they win, they're going to be the number one team in the AP Top 25. But Duke, which has owned this conference, at the very last minute, if it can't get it done in Chapel Hill, will be the 3 seed in the ACC tournament. It's wild.
No, that's the biggest indictment of the ACC is that Duke and Clemson and Louisville should not have nearly identical league records this deep into the season. Like those are very different teams, but they're not tested within the league. You ever hear like professional golfers talk like the best of the best? So it would be, the Scotty Scheffler. They hate being on easy courses because they feel like it just balances out the field. I can't separate from the golfers who are a level below me because we're just having a putting contest out here. That's all it is. This course is not challenging the field, so I can't separate from golfers I'm clearly better than. That's what Duke has not been able to separate from Clemson and Louisville because everybody else in the league stinks.
No one's, and I'm not saying you should, but no one's crying for Duke about this. No, not a single. I
person. Am. I feel bad for Duke. I want to cry for Duke.
Let's go. Come on, Duke.
Carolina. It's going to need to beat Duke one way or the other to get into the tournament. That's my take on the opening segment here before we move on. It's either got to beat Duke on Saturday. If it does, I think UNC will be into the field, and understandably so. If UNC can get its second quad one win, by the way, the other one, if you're curious, CBS Sports Classic, beat UCLA. That's the other high-end win. UNC's resume metrics would jump into the top 40 in that regard, and Carolina would be in the field. Now, if it does that, it depends. So if it does that and then Duke loses, it would actually then avoid Duke in the ACC tournament. Don't want to get too into the weeds here, but right now UNC is 4th in the ACC. And if it were to beat Duke, it would remain 4th. Duke would be 3rd, but then they would be on opposite sides of the bracket, and so they couldn't meet again until the ACC tournament. Asking UNC to beat Duke once, let alone twice, is a pretty tall task. However, if Duke wins, which is to be expected, in fact, KenPom has the projected line at 9. If Duke wins, locks up the 1 seed. Carolina loses, would get to 13-7, and then it would either be the 4 or the 5, I think here. Then Carolina might have to face Duke in the semis of the ACC tournament and be tasked with beating Duke again in order to get into the NCAA. So bottom line, if you're a UNC fan, it is almost definitely going to have to be the case that in order to get into the field, you have to figure out a way to beat Duke. Otherwise, you're heading to the NIT. Let's
move on. 2 power conference programs have finalized hires in the past couple of days. We're going to spend a few minutes on that next, but first, let's get a word from our partners.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
So 2 power conference programs have finalized hires in the past couple of days. Miami has hired Duke associate head coach Jay Lucas, and Utah has hired Dallas Mavericks assistant Alex Jensen. Norlander, let's start in Coral Gables. For folks who are unfamiliar, what is Miami getting in, I believe, 36-year-old Jay Lucas?
Jay Lucas has been on the Duke staff since John Shire was officially bumped up after Coach K retired, and has been the defensive coordinator for Duke's men's basketball program past couple of seasons. And by the way, a lot of this is credit to the players, of course, but coaching does matter as well. And Duke has been a top 5 defense almost wire to wire this season, regarded as a really a really sharp young mind, good recruiter as well. It is, I don't want to say it's an outside the box hire, but it is, there's a lot of stuff about this hiring that is a tad unprecedented, including the timing, which we'll get to in just a second here. But yeah, Miami beat everyone. Literally, it's the first vacancy to close, high major or otherwise, in this early part of this cycle, and it became official. I don't know, Wednesday. I'm losing track of my days, GP. I think it was official on Wednesday. Maybe it was Thursday. Maybe I reported it Wednesday. I can't remember. But yeah, energetic coach, really good connections. Played at Texas. I mean, these things happen. Oh gosh, I feel like I'm starting to get old. Like talking about Jay Lucas being the Miami coach. I remember when this dude was in college, and it wasn't that long ago. Now he's young. He's 36, so it's not like, oh, look at this 47-year-old, and I remember when he was playing ball. It's not quite like that level, but good coach. In the industry, it definitely is like turned some heads. Like, maybe that's like a really good fit, and he can really maybe like that's exactly what Miami needs. Like new young guy, energetic, recruiting connections, get the right staff around him. Like maybe Miami can be a player, and then some others are like, Shire's already got a coach on his tree, a branch on his coaching tree in year 3. He's never run a program. Yeah, he's been at Duke. He was at Kentucky prior to that with John Calipari. Was at Texas prior to that, but maybe that's not what the program will need, and maybe we'll look up in a few years and Miami won't have been anything better for it. So there's some mixed opinion over the outlook of the hiring, but that's what they're getting. And then he is coaching with Duke this weekend, and then going to get on a plane, be introduced on Monday, and that's it. He's done. He's no longer at Duke, which is necessary, I guess. Although I have another thought on that, but I'll toss it back to you. But because of the impending portal that's going to happen and the roster flip he's going to need to make and the staff that he's going to have to build, John and Jay came to the agreement that, for the betterment of the start of his coaching career and getting this job, he is going to have to leave the team that he helped build into a national title contender, and we've never seen that before.
Yeah, well, first I'd push back a little bit on it's necessary. Why is it necessary? And if it's necessary, then why wasn't it necessary for anybody last year? Like literally no coach.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the pushback, and I know I'm just role playing with you here. I always love role playing with you, GP. The portal doesn't open until March 24th. So the portal does not open until the Monday after the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. So I agree, and I haven't burrowed into the exact reasons why he has to leave Duke after this weekend. As I was reporting out the story behind the scenes, my anticipation was that he would certainly coach to the end of the ACC tournament, and then they would determine if he was going to be able to be with the team in the first weekend of the tournament or if he needed to really like prep his stuff. But I think they just didn't want to have a situation where he's with Duke, but he's also spending half his time or more than half his time like building out Miami's roster and Miami's staff. And so now he's leaving, which creates this weird dichotomy. Like if he's good enough and valuable enough to be the next coach at Miami because what he did at Duke, but he's not so valuable that Duke can be like, no, if you got to leave, you got to leave. I genuinely wonder if it will impact Duke's chances at making a Final Four run or winning the national title. He's a good coach. He's been a critical part of that staff. That's one less guy you have helping in scout, helping in practice, helping do all this stuff. So I actually do think it has some tangible effects. Whether or not really Duke is impacted, we'll see. But I would agree with you. Like the fact that he would quote unquote have to leave right now, not sure I'm there, but I understand with the portal and all of that, like it would be asking a lot of him to stay on Duke's staff till the end of the NCAA tournament run, while also trying to recruit players to another team that, just so by the way, happens to be in the same exact conference.
Right. I understand how it benefits Jay. I understand how it benefits Miami. I'm less understanding of what Duke gets out of it and less understanding of why it's necessary because this is not normal. If it were necessary, it would be normal. But other coaches don't do this. I don't think any other coaches are going to do this, or at least I'd be surprised if any other coaches do this. I'm with you. Like you gotta have an opinion, and then I'll react to it. So if you tell me it doesn't matter that Duke is losing Jay Lucas before the ACC tournament, then I'm telling you, well, then are we sure Miami's making a good decision here? Because if the guy doesn't matter, then I don't know why I would want him. And if you tell me he does matter, well, then I'm going to tell you then this is not ideal for Duke. And I think, just so we're clear, I think he does matter. I hope he matters. I would hope he matters. And like if John Shire's okay with it, I don't know why I would be up in arms about it.
No, you should be. You know what? John Shire hasn't been pissed enough. You should be angry on his behalf.
But I'm not angry at all. But This is a program that is chasing a national championship.
No.
And according to everybody, is about to lose in the pursuit of that a valuable coach from the staff. I just don't know how I don't know how you could consider that a plus. We could debate how big of a negative it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you tell me Jay Lucas is talented, and then I'm going to tell you that Duke just lost a talented coach as it's getting ready to try to win a national championship, and that can't be ideal.
No, and this is all initiated by the fact of life in the portal and the inevitable inundation of players going into that. And again, it doesn't technically open until March 24th, but let's be very clear and honest about this. Jay Lucas and many other coaches will be aware of potential targets that are going to be into the portal before that becomes official on March 24th. So it is all prep work in advance of that. Utah hired Alex Jensen. That's the other hiring at the Power 5 level this week. That was official on Thursday. Jensen played for Rick Majerus in the late 1990s. He was the first Mountain West Player of the Year, in fact. But before that, he was on the team that made the national title game in 1998. I have very vivid memories of watching that title game. I love those Kentucky teams in the 90s, and I actually really love that Utah team. And Jensen was in the mix the last time this job came open 4 years ago when Craig Smith got it. He's currently an assistant on the Mavericks. At the time, 4 years ago, he was an assistant with the Jazz, so he was living in Salt Lake City. Could have gotten to campus in all of 10 to 15 minutes. Given everything that's happening with the Mavericks, we'll wait and see when Jensen wants to speak on all this, but. All the turmoil with trading away Luka Doncic. Anthony Davis hasn't been healthy. Now you just lost Kyrie Irving for the season. I was also told that, the way that ownership decided to maybe not reward the staff with Dallas last year after their big run in the playoffs. Not saying it was a deciding factor, but it was just another thing on top of it. And, he's going back to his alma mater. This was one of Rick Majerus' truly beloved players. He got into college coaching when Majerus was at St. Louis. If you remember that era, Jensen was on that staff for a few years before he went over to the NBA and had spent the past dozen years or so. So Utah, Mark Harlan fired Craig Smith, got criticized for it, went after Jensen, was able to convince Jensen to take the job on a good deal. And so now Utah is going to take it's not the first time this has happened, by the way. Larry Kriskoviak had NBA connections and ties when he got the job as well. But now BYU and Utah both in consecutive years have hired sitting high-profile NBA assistants to come, quote-unquote, home, even though Kevin Young isn't a BYU alum and Jensen's joining the staff. What are your thoughts on the hire?
Well, I do think it's notable that those big universities in that state have both made similar hires over the past year. Do you think one led to the other, or one helped the other one get done, or one put the idea in the other one's head?
No, but I have to believe that Jensen looked at what BYU was doing and how Kevin was able to step in, even a season before getting AJ Dubasa, by the way. And I mean, BYU is tracking toward maybe like a 6 or 7 seed right now. And this is a shot. This is your alma mater. College coaching is different than the NBA. There are some ways in which it's better. There are some ways in which it makes your life harder, some ways in which it makes your life easier. And yeah, the parallels are kind of hard to deny. Now, Utah fans, I'm aware of this just because, you send out the news and then BYU and Utah fans start going after each other in their mentions. So Utah fans are pushing back on the idea that, they're following what BYU did. And you know what? It's all in great fun because that's an incredibly intense rivalry. So I get all of that. But yeah, I think it might have had a little bit of influence, but I don't think it's necessarily one following in the footsteps of the other. But how could you say that it didn't have at least some impact on what Utah decided to do?
I just remember when it was a few years ago, there was a school that I want to say, I remember Juwan Howard had a nice start or a nice season or something at Michigan. I think I've got this right in my head. Tell me if you remember it this way. And then as the Indiana job is open, and once we get past the Brad Stevens stuff for the 50th time,
yeah.
I remember talking to somebody connected to the Indiana program, and they were like, they just kept hammering to me, but look at what's happened at Michigan. They went out, they hired an alum, NBA background, and like it's working. And it felt like they were trying to sell me on, and we're going to go hire an alum with MBA, Mike Woodson. It felt like they were leading me down. I know you might not understand why we're doing this, but before you criticize it, look at what happened at Michigan. This is what they did, and it's going well. So, like, just be a little more open-minded about what we might do. I really did. At least this one person, I felt like they were using Juwan Howard in Michigan to sell me on Mike Woodson in Indiana. And I do think sometimes when you could point to something that's working in real time and compare it to what you are trying to do or imagining doing, it can be helpful. And I'm not accusing Utah of copycatting, for lack of a better word, but I do think the fact that BYU, this thing that it did is going well, makes it easier for somebody to do something similar. I don't think that's connecting too many dots.
Yeah, I'm told Andre Miller is very much in the mix and considering joining Jensen's staff. Miller, of course, played at Utah and was Jensen's teammate. He's been a G League coach for the past few years. Obviously had a long and successful NBA career. So if that happens, could have a pretty cool story out in the Beehive State. There's plenty of turnover. Those are the two vacancies that have closed. As a reminder, and there's a coaching tracker as well on cbssports.com that I update. It's going to be updating pretty much daily, probably after this weekend here. The three others that are to be filled still are Indiana, and that search it's quietly moving along. We got to get another week or so in before I think that really picks up some steam. Virginia is looking at a couple of candidates here, and then Florida State is also looking at a few as well. I think Luke Laux, the NBA connection, he's an alum, Sacramento Kings assistant. I've been told that he is considered the leader at this stage. Whether or not that remains the case, we'll find out soon enough. And there are many other candidates as well that have been involved in the FSU job. But those are the three that are open, and I would expect we'll get, I don't know, another 3 or 4 within a week's time of us talking right now that will open then.
All right. It's time to move on and get to the Final Four and one presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. This is where we provide the best expert picks on the internet. Don't pay attention to the season records. They can be a little misleading, but this is where you're going to get the best expert picks on the entire internet. It's the Final Four and one presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We're going to do that next. First, let's get a word from our partners.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. A 16 beats a 1.
From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
GP.
All right.
Hold on. I gotta say, if you're watching on YouTube and you're young, that promo for the NCAA tournament, I have had Word Up by Cameo in my head the entire week. It is a jam. So if you're listening to it and wondering, what is that song? It's like 1985, 86. Cameo, Word Up, YouTube it, kids. There's Pandora, Spotify, whatever you do. Straight out of the, it is a jam. I've had it in my head all week. So I was, it really gets me going. There we go.
Well, let me tell you what I have in my head for 2 months now. On the other show, the Gary Parrish show, we have commercials and breaks and just like everything else. And we often will have ads for concerts coming up at FedEx Forum or whatever. And there's a Shine Down Bush show coming to FedEx Forum. Yeah. And so every day.
Machine Head?
Glycerin? Yes.
Machine
got
Head?
A machine head. I got Machine Head. It's just, I hear
the wrist. My machine.
I hear Machine Head twice a day, 5 days a week. I don't think anybody should be hearing Machine Head twice a day, 5 days a week in the year 2025. That's not that can't be healthy.
Rossdale, formerly married to
Gwen Stefani. Don't talk to me. Who do you think you're talking to?
That's right.
It's time for the Final Four and one presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. You went 3-2 last week. Congratulations. I went 2-3. So the season record, you're now 40, 43-2. 3 games under 500. I'm 36, 47-2.
You got me thinking about Bush, by the way. That I got my drum set over there. The come down drum beat with the bass. It's such a fun little lick. Yeah.
Front me right back down to something about he wants to get cut down the
I'll be right
sides.
back down the sides, but it's that.
He wanted to get. How is it possible you can? How is it possible you can remember every word to every song you knew when you were 15 years old?
It's the best time of your life. It's premarital sex. So it wasn't the best time of your life, but in many ways it was.
Speak for yourself.
15?
I don't remember.
No shot. No shot. You? Not me.
I don't remember,
I'll say
man.
it. I don't care.
That was so long ago. Who could even remember? You know?
Wow,
Who
I got
could even
people in the
remember?
chat trying to accuse me of just showing instruments. Do I actually play them? Hell yeah, I play them. Get that guitar right now and play it for you. It's a little awkward here, but I could. Don't make me.
Game 1, Saturday, noon Eastern. It's number 6 St. John's at number 20 Marquette inside Travis Diener Forum. You can watch it on Fox. Kim Pom's got it Marquette.
Good
minus
Parrish.
1.
Get it out. Get it. I thought you were on the mend. You're regressing.
I did too. I felt pretty good yesterday. I've relapsed. I relapsed this morning.
You did relapse.
I've relapsed.
Problematic. St. John's at Marquette. You know what? Nada, play what happened to St. John's on Thursday night on network television real quick. This is a good 20 seconds, maybe. You got it?
Back on top after 25 years, led by a coach we all revere, a legendary man among his peers. His name is Rick Pitino. Soon may the red storm come to rock the rim and make a run. One day when the winning is done, we'll cut the nets and go.
Come on now. This is in all seriousness, Parrish. This is when you were in New York City, Rick Pitino, relevant program, going on Jimmy Fallon and the Tonight Show. This is the stuff that adds to St. John's being the kind of team that casual sports fans know about, want to watch, want to talk about. It has broad impact, man.
There are millions of people last night who became aware, A, that Rick Pitino is coaching St. John's, and that St. John's is good, and had no idea before last night. That's the type, like, that just opens you up to a whole new world of people who don't even know, despite our billboards in Times Square, don't even know that we exist, don't even know that Rick Pitino is still alive, like nothing. That's the type of thing that takes you to another level. It was cool to see.
It was cool to see. Even in the live chat, I can tell people didn't realize that happened. So we took some people by surprise. It was cool to see. There's actually an even longer version. That's just the Pitino part at the end there. Love seeing most of the players on the roster get some time there as they were fake singing along with Fallon, and then Pitino sat down and talked with Jimmy Fallon. So yeah, this is St. John's, truly national, and now it's locked up the regular season championship in the Big East, and it's got to go play on the road against Marquette.
What you say?
Marquette's going to win this game, GP. They got it close earlier in the week against UConn. They fought valiantly. The Huskies were able to get the dub, and a really nice win by Dan Hurley's crew and getting that. Alex Caravan had himself a nice game. Marquette is going to respond from its Wednesday night loss, 6-point loss on the road against UConn. It's got the game at home, Fiserv Forum, and give me Marquette win straight up.
If you're Rick Pitino, do you consider, because he's been talking about how banged up various players have been in recent weeks, would you consider resting somebody here? You've got the outright Big East title locked up. You are still theoretically playing for a seed in the NCAA tournament,
Yes.
but most people don't think you can get to the 1, or at least don't think you will get to the 1.
Right.
We're really talking about probably a 2 as your ceiling, a 4 as your floor. Would you consider maybe trying to go to Milwaukee and do this without Kadari or somebody?
Exactly. If I got a couple of guys that are just a little banged up and they'd benefit by, let's see, St. John's last played on, was it really Saturday? It was. So they've had a full week off. But the question is, how banged up are your key guys, Kadarian specifically? Do they need another 5-6 days of rest? Will they be benefited by that, by potentially having to do 3 games in 3 days at the Big East tournament before then getting another 4 or 5 days of rest for the NCAA tournament. I would consider it. You've locked it up. Now, if you lose, there's actually a scenario, if this matters to you, if you're Rick Pitino, if you lose at Marquette and even win the Big East tournament, depending on it's going to depend on like 4 or 5 other teams. There's actually a scenario where if that happens, you would actually eliminate yourself from the 2 seed conversation if the right kind of teams won enough over the next week and a half. And so then you take yourself out of being a 2 and you get put on the 3. How much does that matter to you? I happen to think no matter the strength St. John's plays in this one, I think Marquette is going to play hair on fire, come out ready, get this W, and help its seed process or its seed push in the process and getting that done. But it is something certainly to watch for on Saturday.
The problem, of course, is that Marquette hadn't been good lately. And by lately, I mean
I know
for more than a month.
I know.
4-5 in their past 9. Since February 1st, Marquette is 49th at Torvik, 69th in offensive efficiency, 46th in defensive efficiency, shooting 31% from 3. So they haven't been very good for a while, but given the injury stuff connected to St. John's, given that I'm a building truster, I identify as a building truster.
Don't. This is the building you don't trust. We've gone over this. I see. Even I got to remind you. You don't trust this building. You call it a 2-timer.
Well, it is a 2-timer. Sometimes it lets Giannis call it home.
Exactly.
And other times it lets Cam Jones call it home.
You don't trust this building.
You're right. I don't trust
You've always hated Marquette. I don't know.
You're right. I don't trust. Give me the Red Storm. I don't trust the 2-time and vice for him.
That's right.
Sometimes it's like, come on home, Giannis. Lay down with me. And then it's like, come on over, Cam Jones. That's the Kennel doesn't do that. Do you think the Kennel does that?
Only for like volleyball games.
Yeah, but that's different. I think we can all agree that's different.
All right, game 2.
That's just called being a little open-minded, you know?
Okay.
I'm taking the Red Storm. I don't trust that building. I'm sorry. I want to, but I can't. Game 2 Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Number 7 Alabama at number 1 Auburn inside Jared Harper Arena. You can watch it on ESPN.
Jared Harper.
He took the Tigers to their first Final Four.
I know. I'm not saying it's not. I forget about Jared Harper, and then every time Auburn has a home game in the Final Four one, you remind me about Jared Harper. I like it.
Jared Harper is the perfect player who, if he lived now, and I guess he does live now, I shouldn't remove him from Earth. I shouldn't remove him from Earth.
Please don't kill off Jared Harper.
There is nothing there's no part of me that wanted to wake up today and kill Jared Harper. All right. Okay. My point is this. If Jared Harper was coming off of the 2019 season in 2025, he would make $4 million to come back to Auburn next year and play basketball. Instead, he's disappeared. I know he's still on this earth somewhere, but you don't know where.
I don't.
Yeah.
Nope. He's playing basketball somewhere. Couldn't tell you the country. Let's try and guess. Let's guess the country.
Okay, let's guess the country. Jared Harper is currently
playing. Where is
Jared
Harper playing? Let's guess the country. What if he's in the G League if we're wrong? But let's assume he's playing overseas predominantly. I will say
we will pick what country we think he's playing in.
Yes.
And if we're wrong about the country because it's the G League, we will also identify a G League franchise that he could be playing for. And we'll see if we hit on either one.
So hold on. So I'm not looking this up?
No, neither one of us are looking it up right now.
Okay, Nada, you got to look it up. Nada, get that mic ready. I think Nada's at a Panera right now, by the way. So,
okay, put your sandwich down, and you find out if A, confirm that Jared Harper is still living, B, find out where he's playing, and now we will guess both a country and a G League franchise.
Okay, I will say Jared Harper is playing in, I'm going to say Italy.
I will go with Australia.
Okay. Nada, do you have the answer?
Oh, no, we got to pick a G League franchise. Got to pick a G League franchise.
No, well, hold on. Is it G League or no?
It is not G League at all.
It's not Australia and it's not Italy. One more guess apiece. I'm obviously going to say Greece.
And Greece. I'm going to go with Spain.
GP's mic is now gone underwater. I heard you, but he's going to go Spain.
I'm going Germany.
Germany. He's saying Germany. What is it?
You guys are both wrong again. It is Israel.
Israel. You know what? That tracks.
That tracks. It makes sense.
It's our bad.
Yeah, we did. There's some clues we could have picked up on, perhaps.
Yeah, that's bad gumshoe work right there. Bad gumshoe work. What's the line in this game, Parrish?
Auburn -10, big number.
Okay, I know we got to kind of keep it moving here. What we talked about on the Wednesday show happened that night in Alabama. Did you see this? The Tide get beat by Florida, and congrats to Florida on a really good win, 99-94. They go on the road. I mean, they dropped 99 on Alabama in Tuscaloosa, get yet another good win. Gators are 1 seed level right now, 26-4. I know it's been a couple nights since that game was played, but at least want to acknowledge some of the stuff that went down on Wednesday since we last talked. That was a good win. Alex Condon was awesome, and just the latest example of Florida having the dudes to win a national title. Super, super, super impressive. Bama loses again. It is 23-7. It was senior night, and the joint largely emptied as Mark Sears and co. were looking to get honored there. And
that's rough.
Said afterward he didn't want to have all of the pregame stuff affect his team's performance, so they saved it for afterward. And unfortunately, it's the exact thing that you said on the show. The worst case scenario is you do it after a home loss on senior night, and that's what wound up happening. Bama has lost 4 of its past 6, and you hate to see that because Sears over the past couple of years here has played himself into being one of the better players in the history of that program.
It's all about your approach to a moment. And you can like, this makes sense in my head, an approach to anything. Like, what are you after? Are you after best case scenario, or are you trying to avoid worst case scenario? And anytime you're trying to avoid worst case scenario, the decision should be pretty easy for you. For instance, like you got a plane to catch. You might encounter traffic on the way. Do I really want to leave for the airport 2 hours early? No, I don't want to leave 2 hours early. But what am I trying to make sure? Worst case scenario, I can't miss this flight. So I'll leave early just to avoid worst case scenario. Same thing here. I would rather, if you could promise me I would win and the building would stay full and we would all feel great afterwards, yeah, let's have the celebration after the game. But there is a chance we're going to lose. And then this celebration becomes miserable, and it becomes a bad memory instead of a good one. Put me in charge of a college basketball program, and senior night will always come before tip-off, never after. Yeah, it's lame. I understand it, but anytime it leads to a moment like that, it's not good.
I'm going to take, all that said, I'm going to take Bama to cover in this game, although here's a nugget, GP. Bama has lost to Ole Miss, to Auburn, to Tennessee, to Missouri, and to Florida. That's 5 losses to teams in the top 6 of the SEC standings. And against those specific teams, it doesn't have more than, I'm looking to make sure that my stuff is accurate here. It doesn't have a win. Is this correct? It's like 0-5, 1-5 against the top 5 teams in the SEC. This is Bama. So it's been slipping as of late. It hasn't been playing well against the top end of the conference at all. And now it's got a roadie against Auburn. I actually think Auburn, after its loss on Tuesday, I think Auburn comes out, plays well, but rivalry game, I think the Tide have enough and they get inside the number. I will take Nate Oates' group to be inside. You said it's 10, 9 or 10. I'll take Alabama to cover.
Yeah, it just seems like a big number. Denver Jones did miss the game midweek with an ankle. Like, he matters. He's 6'4" guard, 2-way player.
Yes, that's big.
Double-digit scorer. He warmed up before the A&M game and then just didn't go. I would assume he'll try to give it a go again this weekend and probably be okay. But as always, we'll see. I think Auburn wins the game, obviously. But in a rivalry game between 2 teams that have both been projected as 1 seeds recently, if I can get 10 points in either direction, I'll just take the 10 points and hope that somebody can keep it close. Game 3, Saturday, 3:45 p.m. Eastern. Ohio State at Indiana inside Tom Crean Hall. You can watch it on CBS. That's America's most watched network of stars. KenPom's got it, Indiana -1. It's a big double bubble game. This is a double bubble game.
This is a classic double bubble. It's not our only double bubble in the Final Four and 1. Both these teams, Indiana, Ohio State, they're in that Dayton 11 seed territory. Ohio State getting a win in double OT and another double bubble game. This is a double bubble week for the Buckeyes. I mean, that's just a lot to ask right there. Double bubble. I like Indiana, GP. I like Mike Woodson to continue his revenge tour on a team he currently coaches against a school he's currently employed at, and to get a win and further push Indiana's case to make the NCAA tournament. I like the Hoosiers, and I like them with a little bit of breathing room here.
I will say this is one of the positives of announcing midseason that you're gone at the end of the season, no matter what.
Yeah,
because Indiana fans would be in a weird situation right now if Mike Woodson's future was still up in the air.
Exactly right.
You wouldn't know whether to root for him to win just enough to keep his job or for this to fall apart so that he doesn't keep his job. But now I think I don't want to speak for Indiana fans, but I would think. I mean, I might speak for Indiana fans. I would think it's easy to just root for now. Now you're just rooting. You're going to get what you want. You're going to get a new coach. Maybe not the coach you want, but you're going to have a new one. And now you can just root for. You don't have to look at Mike Woodson as the disappointing coach. You can just look at him as your former player, as your alum, who you would like to see have some good moments before he exits stage left. So I imagine Tom Crean Hall will be filled up in a nice environment for America's Most Watched Network this weekend. This is also just, and I promise we don't have it in our contracts that we have to say this every show or address this every show, but this is also the millionth reason why we don't need tournament expansion. Both of these teams feel like they've been wildly disappointing this season.
I know.
And they could both make the NCAA tournament.
I would put it this way. Ohio State is 17-13 right now, which is just not an inspiring record. Indiana's 18-12, so the record's a little bit better. And Ohio State, if you made me pick between the two right now, I mean narrowly. I think I would narrowly have Ohio State ahead of Indiana right now. But yeah, we don't need more teams. This is the stakes. And then you get into the Big Ten tournament, and if you want to make it into the NCAA tournament, win a couple of damn games. It's a great system we got going. Next week's going to be filled with tension and plenty of must-watch ball because the tournament is the perfect size. I'm going to take Indiana, and you are as well?
I don't think I can.
Wow.
I'm not sure I can.
It's game 3, and it is March. You probably need to go against me.
Many men have spent the past 13 months getting deeblered. Like the list is.
I had a coach. This has been a minute now. I did have a coach text me after beating Ohio State at some point this season and say, I didn't want to get deeblered. And I was like, good God, man.
It's tough. Nobody wants to get deeblered. Nobody ever plans on getting deeblered. That's not, you don't wake up and be like, I know what I want to do today, get deeblered. Nobody says that, right? But it happens. It happens to you whether you want it to happen to you or not. Happened to Matt Painter. It has happened to Tom Izzo. Rodney Terry has been deeblered. Mark Pope has been deeblered. Frey McCaffrey, deeblered. Kevin Willis, deeblered. I always save him for last.
Oh, okay.
Danny Sprinkle, deeblered. Eric Musselman has been deeblered. Fred Hoiberg has been deeblered. And yes, Doug Gottlieb has also been deeblered. He's been a lot of things, but also deeblered.
All right, you're taking the Bucks.
Yeah, I think I have to. It's a double bubble game with a deebler involved. What are you talking about?
Game 4.
Sunday, noon Eastern.
Yep.
Number 17, Michigan at number 8, Michigan State inside Mateen Cleave Center. You can watch it on CPS. It's America's Most Watched Network. It's the network
again.
Yes. Michigan State -7. This is very emotional for me.
All right, Big Ten tournament champs. Let it out, buddy.
Tom Izzo inside Mateen Cleave Center after securing a outright Big Ten title. They were down big last night. Down 14 to Iowa, and looked like they were going to take a loss. And they outscored Iowa 78-57 over the final 28-34. Down 14, won the game by 7. That's a 21-point flip. Yeah, it's going to be an emotional weekend for me personally, seeing Tom Izzo inside the Mateen Cleave Center with his 11th Big Ten title already secured. How about this? Jason Richardson spent 2 years at Michigan State, won back-to-back Big Ten titles. Now his son is arguably the best player on a Big Ten title team. Tom Izzo has won 11 Big Ten titles. Nobody's ever won more. And 3 of them are Richardson is involved. 27.3% of Tom Izzo's Big Ten titles features one of the Richardsons in the father-son duo. That's kind of a neat little thing, isn't it?
It is a neat little thing. Yeah, the fact that Michigan State in the preseason it received the 7th most votes among AP voters. I think in the unofficial poll that's done by our buddy Adam Jardy, I think Michigan State was 5th in that one. But AP voters wound up putting Michigan State 7th overall among Big Ten teams, and now we look ahead, and yeah, they are the outright Big Ten champs. I was recently in Michigan, got a thing on Tom Izzo and Dusty May, which if all goes to plan, I think should pub either today or tomorrow in advance of the game. Michigan State has eliminated any kind of drama and stakes to these games because now Michigan can't even get a share of it. But I appreciate both those men for spending a lot of time with me and giving me some time. So a nice little insight to both of them. And what Izzo is doing just remains incredible. He's still operating at a high level, and that he's got a team like this, and now he's with 11 regular season Big Ten championships. And then I looked this up last night. This is now I think it's 22 out of 30 years. I think if you're a Michigan State fan, hit up your Michigan buds and gal pals and let them know that Tom Izzo, this is year 30. I think in 22 of his 30 years, Michigan State has finished ahead of Michigan in the final Big Ten standings. It's mighty impressive. That being said, give me that line again.
It is Michigan State -7.
You know what? I'll say Michigan goes in there and makes it close. Now, Wolverines, they have flopped a little bit as of late, obviously. They're 2-3 in their last 5. They couldn't get it done on Wednesday night. Credit to Crab 5 and Maryland for going in and getting that win. Highly impressive from the Terps, who continue to be a team that is trending in a BYU way to being very buzzworthy over making a deep run here. But I think Michigan's going to put up a good fight here. I don't know if it will win. Wouldn't surprise me if it won, but give me Dusty May's crew to get inside that number. I would guess that it will be a little bit smaller when the actual line comes out on Saturday. I will go with the Wolverines to cover that line.
Michigan has not looked good lately, but that's a big number in a rivalry game, isn't it?
It feels a little big, yeah. MSU's got it locked up, and I don't know if Izzo will need to rust anyone in the same way that Pitino might, but keep that in mind as well. He also he lives like he cannot stand losing to Michigan. So, yeah.
While recognizing I need to make up ground on you somewhere, I will take. That's just too many points to give a Vlad Golden. I think if there's one thing I've been saying for years is that you can't give Vlad Golden that many points in a rivalry game, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm taking Michigan plus the 7. I think Michigan State wins the game inside the Breslin Center, but I'll take Michigan plus the points. What else do we need to know before we get out of here? We got the and what's the and one? That's what I meant.
Correct. We got the and one. Small mid-major job is going to open here in a couple hours, but I don't need to say it on the show.
Green Bay?
Stop. It's not Green Bay.
Okay.
I believe the job.
That's what the chat was thinking.
I believe the job is in the Central Time Zone. But anyway, okay. And one, Oklahoma at Texas on Kenton Paulino Court. This game is Saturday. Hold on, I don't have the time here. My bad, buddy. It is Saturday. This is another double bubble game. Texas, 8 Eastern, SEC Network, Oklahoma at Texas, double bubble situation. Losers definitely not in the field heading into Big 12 tournament play. Excuse me, SEC tournament. Old habits die hard. The line for Ken Palm is Texas -3. Who you got? It's a tough game. I think this is the toughest game of the 5 we're doing.
You know what? I not only do I trust buildings, I root for people.
Stop.
These are 2 of my favorite qualities about myself. I'm a building truster and a people rooter. I root for Rodney Terry. I don't think Porter's coaching for his life. Rodney Terry might be. Let's root for people. Let's root for people.
Yep.
I'm taking Texas. I'm laying the little points.
Did you call it a little point?
No, the little points. 3 points.
Okay.
That's a little number.
-1. It is -3.
I'll lay that little number. I'll lay a little number.
I feel like it's a solid size number.
Three is not. Take my word for it. 3 is not solid size.
Someone in the chat might have the school correct that I was alluding to. I will also take Texas to win and cover here. Feels extremely unpredictable. But I will go with Trey Johnson and crew to get it done, to get the win, and in the process, have the Longhorns in the projected field heading into the SEC tournament. We don't have a ton of time left.
I keep seeing tweets from you about Trey Johnson. You ready for him to go number 1 ahead of Cooper Flagg in the NBA draft?
I love Trey Johnson. He's going to be a stud at the next level. Yeah, he's going to be great. I don't see any tweets from you on Trey Johnson, by the way. None. Not a single one. Why do you hate this guy?
I don't hate Trey Johnson. I hate Twitter.
Okay.
My Twitter use is down. It's got nothing to do with Trey Johnson. I love Trey Johnson.
Come on over to Twitter, buddy. I know. All right, other games to know. We got to get out of here in like 2-3 minutes because GP's got another show to do. Here's what else to know on a weekend in which, we are getting dance bids handed out. Friday, not that. Purdue at Illinois tonight, 8 Eastern on Fox. Just a good old Big Ten fashion battle with seeding for the Big Ten tournament on the line. Colorado State at Boise State is at 10 Eastern on FS1 on Friday. Boise State with the win in the field. Saturday, number 19 Kentucky and number 15 Missouri. Noon is loaded. We are getting this day rolling on Saturday. Kentucky at Mizzou on noon Eastern on ESPN. Mississippi State at Arkansas. Arkansas obviously in a gotta win situation. Noon Eastern SEC Network. And then Vanderbilt Georgia. If Georgia wins, it's gonna. I'm willing to go lock status on Georgia if it beats Vandy at noon Eastern Saturday on ESPNU. 1:30 Eastern on CBS. Iowa State at K-State. Can Iowa State just get the win? I mean, it's really kind of fluctuating a bit here. Cyclones got a slippery one at 1:30 Eastern on CBS on Saturday. Keep it moving. Number 24 Arizona at Kansas, 4:30 Eastern on ESPN. This is the only scheduled meeting between these teams this season. The Big 12 only opted to do this once, and the game doesn't have nearly the stakes that we would have thought it would have had 3 months ago. Ole Miss plays at number 5 Florida at 6 Eastern on SEC Network on Saturday. Florida may well need to win that game at home in order to keep its 1 seed status. Meanwhile, Ole Miss, if it can go on the road and actually pull that off, maybe it can actually work its way into, say, a 4 seed heading into the SEC tournament. Duke plays at North Carolina at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN. Rumor has it there might be talk of how long it takes to fly a crow between the two campuses. That's just a source. The OVC title game will be 9 Eastern on Saturday night on ESPN2. This is the first bid to the 2025 men's NCAA tournament. We don't know the matchup. I can't tell you the teams because that won't be determined until later on today as the OVC continues to play its bracket. But I love this weekend every year for obvious reasons. Final weekend of the regular season, and you have teams actually getting into the NCAA tournament. It is incredibly awesome television and great vibes all around. The last game on Saturday of true note is Houston at Baylor, 10 Eastern on ESPN. Just see what Houston can do on the road. Another team that is locked up, a regular season championship, playing away from home. Can Baylor get it done in that spot? Sunday, we've got auto bids, a lot of them. Big South Final, teams to be determined. That is at noon Eastern on ESPN2. ASUN Final, we do know the matchup there. It will be North Alabama against Lipscomb, 2 Eastern, ESPN2. So that will be the third team to get into the NCAA tournament. It will either be North Alabama or Lipscomb. The Bisons beat Queens on Thursday night in overtime to keep their tournament hopes alive. GP already obviously mentioned the big Sparty and Michigan game. Don't need to go over that. The MVC final, 2:10 Eastern on CBS, though. That will come after Michigan State and Michigan. We don't know the teams there. I'm guessing it will be Drake versus Bradley. If Bradley wins that game, we absolutely will be having a discussion about Drake's at-large chances. In that scenario, it would be a 4-loss 30-win team, 29-win team. We'll see. Maybe Drake wins it, and it's not a conversation whatsoever. But the MVC final, as always, on CBS. I don't know this to be the case, but I only hope that it is Kevin Harlan on the call again, because I absolutely love Kevin Harlan on the call for the MVC championship game on every year on CBS. And then late, this is a wrinkle to the conference championship schedule. The Summit League has bumped it up. It is now on CBS Sports Network. It's up to Parrish if he wants to wait until 11 o'clock to podcast on Sunday night. But the Summit League Championship will be at 9 Eastern on CBS Sports Network on Sunday with a bid to the NCAA tournament in the process. That is your Friday, Saturday, Sunday TV schedule. One last note, and we can get out of here. It was announced yesterday. Duke will play Arkansas on Thanksgiving later this year / next season. Really awesome matchup. The CBS Sports Thanksgiving Classic, 8 Eastern on Big CBS, Duke and Arkansas. Awesome non-con game. And those kind of games, as we've told you about plenty before, multiple big-time, high-profile college basketball games on network television on Thanksgiving will be the way of the future. And that one was just announced on Thursday.
We will not be waiting till 11 o'clock on Sunday night to podcast.
Okay, we will be going live before we know what Summit League team is into the NCAA tournament. I figured that was the case. I just wanted you to say it.
That's exactly right. There is no scenario where we are staying up late to talk about teams that we haven't ever talked about before. TBD, time to be determined, but it will not be that late. On Drake, real quick, and I root for these types of schools. I'd much rather see Drake as an at-large than one of these power conference 1 and 10 and quadrant 1 teams we've been talking about. But for what it's worth, Jerry Palm does have Drake as a 12 seed right now in the bracket as a automatic qualifier. What that suggests, I'd let Jerry speak for himself, but what it suggests is if you take a loss in the MVC tournament, that's not going to be good enough. Would you agree with it?
Not yet. I just want to see where we're at on Sunday. If it loses to a good Bradley team, I want to see the resume metrics, but it suggests that might be the case. But I obviously can't. I can't get that far.
I would advise them not to lose. I would advise Drake not to lose. But, we'll see. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Terry Deagle, he's a legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that. We'll talk to you again on Sunday. Till then, take care.